All right, so we're back doing some more Praxis Prep, Praxis Core Math Prep, and from the diagnostic test that I gave in my Praxis Prep course that I'm teaching right now. This is an example that's from page 91. It was number 29 on the diagnostic that the students did, and we were looking for x-intercepts of this function. Now, first of all, what is an x-intercept? An x-intercept is the point where the graph is going to cross the x-axis if you graph it, right? Also, it's the value of x when y is 0, because when the graph crosses the x-axis, on the x-axis, all the y values are 0. The y values are 0 on the x-axis, all right? So the question is, how do we figure out? Now, this was a multiple choice question that'll be listed in the description under this YouTube video, right? But so you could back solve. You could back solve, just take the different values, plug them in for x, and then see if the y value that's included with that x value is what you end up with after you do the calculations. That's what we did during class on Saturday. But I'm going to show you another way because we have more time within this video. It's factoring, right? Now, we could use the quadratic formula to find the x-intercepts. We could complete the square to find the x-intercepts, or we could factor. Let's see if this is factorable. Now, first of all, because we're looking for x-intercepts, the x-intercept is the value of x when y is 0. So this f of x right here is the same thing as y. So first I'm going to rewrite this as y equals 12x squared plus 5x minus 2. And then I already said repeatedly, the x-intercept is the value of x when y is 0. So that means that I'm trying to find what the value of x is when this becomes a 0. So I'm going to rewrite it again. 0 equals 12x squared plus 5x minus 2, right? Now, let's factor this, right? Factor this expression right here. And when I say factor, I mean break it down into two binomials. Bi meaning two terms. Nomials meaning terms. So this is a trinomial right now. This is 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 3 terms. That's a trinomial. When you factor it, we break it down into two separate binomials that can then be used to solve for x. All right? And that's how we're going to find our x-intercepts. So check this out. This is a method I like to call the Malcolm X method, right? Because the first step is you do 12 times negative 2. You take this first number multiplied by the last number. First number multiplied by the last number. So it's going to be 12 times negative 2, which is negative 24. And then you got this middle term, which is a 5. So you go over here, you draw this x. This is why I call it the Malcolm X method, right? I take this negative 24. I put it up top. I take this 5. I put it in the bottom. Now, I'm looking for a number over here and a number over here on the left side and the right side of the x. I'm looking for two factors of negative 24 that add up to positive 5. Two factors of negative 24 that add up to positive 5, right? Now, negative 24 has a few pairs of factors. It could be negative 24 and 1, but that won't work because that doesn't add up to positive 5. Negative 12 and 2, that won't work because that don't add up to positive 5 neither. Negative 8 and 3, that adds up to negative 5, but we need a positive 5. So when that happens, all we got to do is flip the signs around. So I could use positive 8 and negative 3. Positive 8 and negative 3. And again, this is what we're doing. We're doing factoring right now. We're factoring this quadratic trinomial right now. So I put an 8 right here, and I put a negative 3 right here. Now, what I'm going to do next is basically take this trinomial, and I'm going to stretch it out into 4 terms. It's 3 terms right now, but I'm going to stretch it out into 4 terms. Watch this. I'm going to keep the 12x squared. This 5x is going to turn into 8x minus 3x. 8x minus 3x. So I got plus 8x minus 3x minus 2. All right, you see what I did? I took this trinomial, I stretched it out into 4 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to do something called factoring by grouping. Factoring by grouping. So I'm going to have 12x squared plus 8x, put that in parentheses. Then I'm going to have a plus sign. Then I'm going to have negative 3x minus 2. And now I got to know how to factor out a GCF, or greatest common factor, of each of these. This binomial and that binomial. So the greatest common factor of 12 and 8 is 4. The greatest common factor of x squared and x is x, because you take the variable that they have in common with the smaller exponent. You take the smaller exponent. This is a 2. This is an invisible 1 right here. So x to the first, 1 is the smaller exponent. When there's no exponent written, it's understood to be a 1. So out of 12 and 8, we got 4. And out of x squared and x, we use x. So 4x is the GCF. And then what goes into parentheses? The quotients when I divide each of these terms by 4x. So 12x squared divided by 4x is 3x. Because 12 divided by 4 is 3. X squared divided by x is x, because you do the 2 minus the invisible 1 to give you 1. So you got x to the first. Then we got 8x divided by 4x. 8 divided by 4 is 2. X divided by x is 1. Now, I know I'm talking fast, but that's the beauty of technology. With the technology, you can pause, rewind, do whatever you got to do. All right? So 4x times the quantity, 3x plus 2. Now, over here, I'm looking for a greatest common factor between these two. Now, since both of the terms are negative, the only thing, well, before we even get to that, the only thing I can factor out of both of these two is a 1 or a negative 1. And because both of these are negative, I'm going to factor out the negative 1. All right? So I'm going to do minus 1, parentheses. Then I divide each of these terms by negative 1. Negative 3x divided by negative 1 is positive 3x. Negative 2 divided by negative 1 is positive 2. Right? So now we have a common factor. Now, this is another reason I call this the Malcolm X method, right? Because we got a common factor. We got 3x plus 2 and 3x plus 2, right? So imagine that's Malcolm X, that's Malcolm X. When Malcolm X left the Nation of Islam, he started 2 organizations. He started the Muslim Mosque Incorporated, and he started the Organization of Afro-American Unity, right? So see how I try to like implement African history, African-American history into a math lesson at the same time, all right? So look, you take this 3x plus 2, write it one time, right? And then you take this 4x and this minus 1. You put them together, they become friends, right? So now, bring this 0 down. All that is equal to 0, right? That 0 comes down. So we just took this and we factored it. This is the factored form of this that we started with. Now, how do you find the x-intercepts now? This is a factor. This is a factor. You take each factor, you make it equal to 0, and then you solve for x. So I can do, let me see. I could do 3x plus 2 equals 0 and solve for x. 3x plus 2 equals 0. Subtract 2 on the left, subtract 2 on the right. 3x equals negative 2. Divide by 3 on the left, divide by 3 on the right. X equals negative 2/3. That's one of my x-intercepts right there. Negative 2/3. That's one of my x-intercepts. All right? And of course, if it's an x-intercept, it's the value of x when y is 0. So the point would be negative 2/3, comma 0. Right? X-intercept. Value of x when y is 0. Now, do another equation. 4x minus 1 equals 0. I could do that up here. 4x minus 1 is equal to 0. So add 1 on the left side, add 1 on the right side. Why do I add? Because I'm trying to get rid of negative 1. And adding 1 is the opposite of subtracting 1. That's how you get rid of it. Now you got 4x equals 1. How do I get rid of 4? Divide by 4. On the left, divide by 4 on the right. X equals 1/4. X equals 1/4. So the x-intercept, the value of x when y is 0. So we got 1/4, comma 0. These are our two answers. And this is how we factor using what I call the Malcolm X method. If you go on YouTube, you'll see a lot of people calling it the diamond method. The diamond method, right? This method where you write the x and then you put the product of your A and your C term up top. You put the B term down the bottom, and then you look for two factors of the AC product that also add up to B. You put those numbers here and here. They call that the diamond method. And just as easy as they call it the diamond method, I decided to call it the Malcolm X method because whenever I do it, I think of Malcolm X. So there you go. And especially when you get to this part, you know, the two factors, the two organizations that he started before he was assassinated and all of that, you know. But anyway, so yeah, this is number 29 from the diagnostic exam. And again, I know I went over a lot. Rewind it. Go back over my steps. All right. And then try to practice with the other assignments that I've uploaded to the Google Classroom. All right, using this method. Okay. And we'll talk about it more on Saturday when we have class. Okay. So come prepared with your questions, and I'll see you then. Peace.